5 most common myths and facts about freelancing as a type of work. Welcome back everyone, this is Victoria from SiteHunt. Today I'm going to uncover the 5 most common myths and facts about freelancing as a type of work. So in today's business world, there are so many different ways to organize your collaboration with an employer. The first one, or the traditional one, is the employee-employer relationship, when you actually have a permanent contract and you work for a certain organization. The other type of work, or so-called freelancing, is when you have your own company or you're self-employed and you provide your services to your client. So if you're not familiar with the freelancing, maybe you're nervous around this type of work, about how does it work, you think that it's too complicated, or maybe you think that the risk is actually higher than the reward. There are many misconceptions surrounding this type of work which can actually prevent you from your personal growth. All these widespread and so many popular beliefs about freelancing are really common nowadays, and that's why I decided to give you the 5 most common myths about freelancing. And because you want to get the facts straight if you're thinking about this type of work, I'm sure that this will help you to consider this type of freelance career. So let's move. Myth number 1 is that freelancing is short-term and unstable type of work. Well, truth to be told, freelancing can actually be a pretty steady job, especially if you're having multiple clients in the same time. For example, even if you work with only one client for a couple of months on a certain project, this means that you will have a full-time regular job by working, let's say, 8 hours per day with this client, just a different type of contract. Even most common is that you work with multiple clients at once for a couple of months, which means that it's really unlikely that all of the clients will just stop the collaboration with you at one point of time. So actually, this can be a really long-term engagement. Even there is this common misconception that freelance is kind of short-term, that is just for a few months and then you're unsure what you're going to do next. Actually, there are many employers who want the freelancer to work between 1 or 2 or even 3 years, which means that this is even longer than the regular permanent contract. So definitely there are many ways to organize a freelancer, and it can for sure be a pretty steady job. Myth number 2 is that freelancers don't earn enough money to make a good living. So let's be clear here. If you're working as a freelancer, basically if you work for yourself, doesn't mean that you're never getting paid, or you're not getting paid often, or that you barely make any money. Actually, it's quite the opposite of the illusion that freelancers don't make enough money to have a sustained income. Let's say that there are 2 facts here. First of all is that even 66% of freelancers said that they earn much more money when they switch to freelancing compared to the job they had at their traditional employer. And the second fact is that freelancers usually decide to switch being self-employed only because they want to earn more net income in their bank account. Myth number 3, and this is actually a very common one, which I'm constantly hearing, is that freelancers work wherever they want and whenever they want. So this common misconception is that if you're working as a freelancer, that your schedule is wide open, or that you work for just a couple of hours per day, and that you don't take your job really seriously, like the permanent job, let's say. It's true that freelancing does allow certain flexibility in organizing your work and managing your own tasks. Still, as you're working with clients and they have their own deadlines, this means that you will need to adapt to their deadlines in order to make the job done. For example, if your client says that they need some work to be done by the end of the week, this means that you will need to adapt to their schedule in order to meet the deadline. Also, usually your clients will be working in regular business hours. This means that in order to communicate with your clients, to have calls and to generally respond to emails, that you will need to be available to communicate during the regular business hours. Also, another misconception is that if you're working as a freelancer, that you're just working from home and that this is a fully remote job. However, I would say that this is also not true, because many clients will ask you as a freelancer to work in their offices, which means on-site, even full-time sometimes. So doesn't mean that you will work all the time remotely. Sometimes you will need to go to the offices of the client, maybe for a couple of months or even all the time. So it pretty much case-to-case basis. Myth number 4 is that freelancers work on their own and they don't have a boss to report to. Very common, what I'm hearing also from my friends, freelancers, is that, oh, I'm really jealous that you don't have a boss to report to, or you don't have, let's say, a manager to answer to, or something like that. Actually, self-employed or not, you still work for clients, which means that you're getting paid by your clients, and that you still have bosses who are actually your clients that you need to report to. This means that, for example, you need to meet the deadlines of your clients. You need to follow their guidelines and their rules, which is still some kind of professional collaboration and kind of reporting that you need to do, even on weekly or on a daily basis. For example, it will be very common that as a freelancer, you'll be working with multiple clients at once. So let's say you have 3 clients that you're working for a couple of months on a project. This means that you'll have like 3 bosses whom you need to report to. So self-employed or not, this doesn't mean that you're totally on your own and you're fully independent in your job. Myth number 5 is that freelancers are alone and they don't have to deal with people so much. There is this common misconception that as a freelancer, you'll be always working from home and that you won't be surrounded by people. Actually, it's not exactly like this. So as a freelancer, even though you might not be physically surrounded by people, you will always be talking to people. What does it mean? So this means that in order to make new clients, to get new clients and to retain your existing clients, you will need to communicate quite a lot with people. Of course, this means that you'll need to have great customer service abilities and also good understanding of your client's needs, which is actually a lot of people dealing work instead of just being closed and not talking to people. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done it already, and of course if you're interested in similar type of content. And my question for you today is, what is the most common myth that you heard about freelancing?